Dr. Suvarsha Khanna, Mr. Abhishek Bhartia, Dr. N. Mishra, Dr. A. Khurana, Professor K.K. Verma, Mr. P. Mehrotra, Dr. Suvarsha Khanna, if you're here, may I request you to please come up on the stage? Dr. Suvarsha Khanna. Respected dignitaries on the dais, esteemed faculty members, staff members, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of the AIIMS family, I welcome you all to the launch of the book, The Woman Who Ran AIIMS by Dr. Sneha Bhartia. To deliver the welcome address, I would like to request Professor M. Srinivas.
Thank you. Namaskar to all of you. First of all, we would like to welcome Professor P.N. Tandon, former Chief of Neurosciences Center, AIIMS, President of NBRC, founding pillars of this institution. We welcome you, sir. And of course, Madam Bhargava Madam, and that's her birthday today. And ma'am, and the dignitaries here, and the people, the thing is, ma'am, we are grateful to you for two things today. One, it is your birthday. Second, is that, you have connected the 4 to 5 generations of people here. Everybody is looking his teacher, 4 to 5 generations of this. And that is something which is a rare occasion for all of us. And on this occasion, ma'am, really we are grateful to you for having connected all the people who are sitting here with all of us, the young generation. With this, I welcome once again all the people here, and it's very, very, heartwarming for all of us to see, Professor Paul is there, and so many people are here that, we are getting connected to the people here. And the legacy of the institution, how those days, Madam keeps telling the stories, and I'm sure today she will tell some more stories to all of us, that how we were connected as the AIIMS family. This is something which, as a legacy, we want to continue it. And thank you, ma'am, for giving this opportunity that we are going to continue the legacy which you have left behind in this institution. And to you and to Professor Tandon, once again, thanks for coming over here. And he was the first person to say, well, I'm coming on that day. And he made it, and we are really grateful to you. Welcome all of you to the AIIMS family once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Professor P.N. Tandon to say a few words to start the proceedings for the day. Sir is a most eminent neuroscientist of the country. He is the founder of the Neurosurgery Department at AIIMS New Delhi and has been awarded with Padma Shri in 1973 and Padma Bhushan in 1991 by Government of India. Over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Srinivas, Director of All India Institute of Medicine. Thank you for doing me the honor, not only inviting me, because that required only an order from Madam. But I don't know why she was a little hesitant that I will not follow her order for once. So she brought me here to my house. I didn't have anything to welcome both of you. If I had known, I would have at least made some arrangement. I couldn't. But I can assure you that I was so delighted, I was so honored to have what she used the term. They're very used to using her term. That's another problem. When she said, I have brought you a gift, I don't go back or nothing. Then I saw Dr. Then I realized what a gift. So thank you very much. Sneha brought along with her that day one of the 5 copies that were given to her in advance to me. Of course, I've read most of the memoirs, I don't know how many times before that. But that was the occasion I brought that book, but I didn't read it yet. The title of the book is very interesting. I don't know if anybody has commented on it. I don't know if you have heard somebody telling me the title. I did. The woman who ran AIIMS. The title should be The Woman Who Made Others Ran for AIIMS. Let me just say that I had first met Slay 60 years ago. That's all. Then we lost contact. That was the David Moscow. And I left and she left. And when we met again, she was already on the staff of All India Institute. And I was still looking for a job. Anyway, and then suddenly saw it. We are meeting again. And from that time onward, I'm so happy that we met again because we retained our relationship up to date. And I learned so many things from her. And my colleague, Dr. Banerjee, is sitting somewhere behind me, 35 years. I always take his permission also, just as I need to take up. And we found that ultimately today you are meeting an iconic figure of Indian medicine. An iconic figure of Indian medicine who did run herself, made others run, but achieved what she set out to. And if you permit me, I'll read out a small statement from my mentor in Montreal on this. Dr. Vidal Penfield, who was the first director of the Montreal Neurological Institute in 1977, just before his death, completed his biography. And in that he has written, biography and history can do nothing, when if they can't do nothing, is why I am here. He explains it. Can do nothing than formulate from time to time a prophetic prologue for the next generation. And that is precisely what the memoirs are. What she wanted to do is predicted in the chapter 1 itself. At a time when nobody was even thinking of. But what she wanted, this, not only this specialty, but this institute to be. The symbol of what its founder, Jawaharlal Nehru and Kumarji had in their mind when they said, we want an institute of excellence for professional, for teaching and training and research. And she decided that she will take up all the three responsibilities, which she did elegantly. So I was thinking, we have been discussing these memoirs for at least a year when she had been in and out of the hospital. And though I was not in and out of the hospital, but I was also confined there when we were talking. So we had called Sunday we talked to each other. Anyway, there is a saying which I am going to quote that summarizes precisely what this memoir is about. And that is one Philip Messer, somewhere in mid-90s, that there comes a time when when she may well stand back and consider what she has built, planted, written, or begotten, and whether it was worth doing. All of you wouldn't have been here if you didn't want to know whether this is true or not. I could read out from the memoir 3 paragraphs. Time doesn't permit me. The first one, when she says, when I came to our institute in 1961 as assistant professor, the Department of Radiology had one X-ray machine, 500 MB, and one photographic equipment for the chest really used to be done at that. Towards the end, she writes what she's leaving behind. What she has left behind are those things which she had not even heard of, which included, of course, the famous CT scan, MR scan, ultrasound. I can go on naming, and she has named those people whom she trained, made them leaders of that, and finally, all those single departments converted into like the blossoming flowers. Each one a department in its own right. Each one probably the first one in the country to give a degree in that subject. Each one. But she was very clever. That you know, I'm sure. She never let anybody touch anything till she had mastered it. And name it, and she would first know what is happening in the world, try to get it, and who helped her. That is the trick that you people must learn. She realized that radiology is not reading black and white photographs in a dark room in the basement of the hospital and then give a judgmental diagnosis which has no relationship either to the patient or the stage disease, which is more of death. That I will show that the radiology department will become, one of the premier clinical departments and not today a therapy. And you all know, most of you know, how true it is. I won't again spend time on it because I don't have to. Now, how did she do it? That's a long story. The chapter 1 tells us. It's unbelievable. It's totally unbelievable. At the age of 5 years, born in a distinguished Punjab family of distinguished legal expert, rich culture, and unbelievably knowledgeable. What they decided? When she was 5 years old, she was sent to a Christian school in Willingdon, away from where she was staying. So at 5 years of age, a girl in that age, in 1935, just before the World War. And that laid the genetic and the behavior content of her becoming the item that she ultimately. Again, I will not go. I will not take too much time because there is so much I could say, having known her for 60 years, having worked with her, having literally worked shoulder to shoulder. We have written papers together. And in a minor way, I am also responsible for people not focusing at, अरे बाबा वो किताब तो पूरी कर दे. अच्छा मैं हॉस्टल से आके अब आ गई हॉस्टल से कर दूंगी. हाँ मैं आ गई, मैंने लिखना शुरू कर दिया है. That's what the memoir are. And I will tell you, if you want to know how to succeed in life with principle, not be afraid of anybody, irrespective of power, and get your what you dream. And I will quote lastly one of the first Indian Science Nobel laureate, who said that dreams are the best part of it. It is not the fruition of the dream, but the thinking of how to work for it. And you won't believe. So when she finished this book, she was already working on something. She had not taken that secret yet out, but we will soon know. And then how will she do it? I said, you are now not that young. She said, the motto that I have is that life is like riding a cycle. If you don't move, you will fall down. Keep the cycle moving and you will be alive. And so you will remain alive. And I said to the friend, whatever you do, read this book. There are so many things that you will not believe, which I could tell for the rest 1.5 hours, but not now. Some other time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. I would now like to invite Mr. Parth Mehrotra, publisher of Juggernaut Books, which has published this book, for a few words.
Professor Dr. P.N. Tandon, Dr. Bhargav, Professor Dr. Srinivas, Dr. Khanna, Mr. Bhartia, Dr. Mishra, Dr. Khurana, Dr. Verma, Dr. N. Tandon, dignitaries in the audience, family and friends of Dr. Bhargav, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. I cannot help but feel like a bit of a charlatan amongst such distinguished and eminent persons. I am only Dr. Bhargav's editor and publisher, and that privilege and honor has led me to this second privilege and honor of being amongst you all today. Indeed, when the acclaimed historian Parvati Sharma, her grandmother is friends with Dr. Bhargav, phoned me asking if I'd like to be put in touch with Dr. Bhargav to publish her memoirs, I absolutely jumped at the opportunity. It would be a very foolish publisher who wouldn't grab such a privilege. Upon speaking with Dr. Bhargav, I was astounded. She asked me for my address so she could send me her manuscript. And when I told her my address over the phone, just by hearing it, she told me the names of my landlords. Dr. Bhargav, at 38, I do not have the memory you have at 95. In fact, may I take this opportunity to wish you a very happy 95th birthday and pray for more to come. When I sat with Dr. Bhargav and heard fragments of her life story, I knew what we had was publishing gold. And this fact is amply borne out by rave upon rave review of the book, the latest having been published a few days ago in Open Magazine, 4 days ago, in which the reviewer calls it an engaging read, the story of an extraordinary woman with an endless zest for life. I couldn't agree more. Dr. Bhargav, born in 1930, is one of the first Indian women to qualify as a radiologist. She was the very first, and so far only woman, to head AIIMS in its decades-long history. On her first day on the job as AIIMS director in 1984, Dr. Bhargav had to deal with a monumental crisis. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had been shot and was brought to AIIMS. In this book, we get a riveting first-hand account of this harrowing story and other gripping tales from the annals of Indian medicine. Dr. Bhargav was in the room when the invention of the CT scanner was announced in the US in the early 1970s. It was she who convinced the higher-ups in the Indian government to bring the CT scanner to India. In fact, if I'm not wrong, Dr. Bhargav told me that the headline in the paper was that the cat has landed. Up until that point, the only way to look inside a patient's body was to do an X-ray or to cut them open. This book is chock full of intriguing stories from a bygone era. From the time radium needles used to treat cancers mysteriously went missing from Lady Hardinge Medical College, to when Dr. Bhargav diagnosed a sitting president with lung cancer using only an X-ray. After she retired from AIIMS in 1990, Dr. Bhargav went on to play a pivotal role in the establishment and running of two top hospitals in New Delhi, Sitaram Bhartia Institute of Science and Research and Dharamshila Cancer Hospital and Research Center. She was forced into retirement in her 90s when COVID regulations meant she could no longer go into the hospitals for work. But she didn't take to social media like the rest of us did at that time. She used the newly acquired free time to write this frank and candid book, one of the best memoirs from a pioneer of Indian medicine. This is not just the story of her extraordinary life, but is equally the story of the medical profession in post-independence India and an illustration of what it means to truly live a life of service. Before closing, I would like to read a page and a half from Dr. Bhargav's riveting autobiography. This is my favorite bit. One of my favorite bits. I was able to join Lady Hardinge as a lecturer. This is the 1950s. The radiology department included radiotherapy and electrology. For radiotherapy, besides a Westinghouse treatment machine, radium needles were used for treating cancer. They were inserted into the tumor tissue for a stipulated period of time to destroy the tumor and then removed. If kept in for too long, they burnt the healthy tissue. They were kept safely under lock and key in a lead-lined safe, and the keys remained with the radiology chief, Dr. X. The needles were naturally radioactive. They emitted radiation that could harm people. Both for human safety and for the environment, they were kept in a vault lined with lead. As the assistant, I had access to the keys given by the chief, and it was my job to issue the radium needles and record the time they were issued and the time they were returned in a register that was kept in the safe. I had been doing this job ever since I joined the department and returning the safe keys to the chief after issuing or receiving the radium needles. For some unknown reason, just before summer vacation started, Dr. X announced she was going to check the radium needles before I went on vacation. On opening the safe and counting the needles, to my shock, 5 needles used for cancer of the cervix were missing, though the register showed them as having been issued and returned duly signed. Dr. X handed me a note formally demanding an explanation. Greatly perturbed, I discussed this with my father, and he asked a lawyer to frame the answer. An inquiry committee was set up by the principal, and I was exonerated because the keys were not always with me except during the period of issuing and receiving the needles. A few days later, Dr. X strode in. It was about 9:30 a.m., which was rather early for her. She summoned a chaprasi to bring her 2 bed sheets, and she proceeded to throw all the department papers, files, and registers from the cupboard onto the sheets laid out on the ground and told him to take them away. We were shell-shocked. An hour later, Lady Hardinge's medical superintendent walked in. Looking at me, she said, "Dr. X has been suspended. Please take over the department." I was still in a state of shock. But I pointed out that all the documents and records had been removed by Dr. X. So what was there for me to take over? She was equally stunned, having no idea that all the records had ended up in the 2 bed sheets. There was no alternative but to sit down and create new folders and registers. Later, after Dr. X's suspension, I learned from her trusted nurse that one day Dr. X had taken the lead box containing radium needles from the safe to the Delhi airport. The nurse had accompanied her. We went into the airport and Dr. X met a lady there. I don't know who she was, but the two of them went into the ladies' toilet. Dr. X took the box containing the radium needles with her. They were gone for a short while. I waited. When they emerged, Dr. X left with me to go back to the hospital, and the woman went off. The nurse later told me. Those needles were the ones that were missing. The obvious explanation for this bizarre incident is that Dr. X must have, in return for money under the table, agreed to insert the radium needles into the mysterious woman. Radium needles have to be kept inside the body for a certain period of time so that the required amount of radiation enters the tissue. My guess is that the woman was traveling and would have had the needles removed later by another doctor after an appropriate interval, or else she sold the needles to this mysterious woman for an unknown price. All this is total conjecture because we do not know why the woman did not seek formal medical treatment. All any of us know was that the needles went missing. The box was taken to the airport where Dr. X met the lady. What happened after they met is anyone's guess. I can truly see this book being converted into a film, and I do hope that that might happen at some point. It's been a pleasure to be here today. Thank you to AIIMS for having me, and thank you especially to Dr. Bhargav for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mehrotra, for this very engaging account of the book and reading out the interesting excerpts from it. And now I would like to request Dr. Suvarsha Khanna to say a few words. Dr. Suvarsha Khanna is president of Dharamshila Cancer Foundation and Research Center since 2001, and she has won the distinguished award of being amongst the 50 outstanding women in healthcare. Please. Sure. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Respected dignitaries on the stage, Chief Guest Dr. Tandon, Director AIIMS Dr. Srinivas, Dr. Mishra, Dr. Khurana, and of course Mr. Mehrotra and Dr. Tandon. A very, very good evening to all of you. And all of you in the audience, all my teachers, respected colleagues. I am grateful to Dr. Bhartia for inviting me to such an important event today, especially on my birthday. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhartia, for inviting me. For me, Dr. Bhartia has been my teacher, my mentor, my guide, philosopher, and I have no words to say. She's such a towering personality that to say so much that I learned from her. How did I meet her? From 1980 to 1988, my father was fighting with terminal cancer, stage 4. And to my horror, there was not a single comprehensive cancer care hospital in the North India. All you have to do was to run to Khanna. And what did I hear from everybody around? Nothing can be done, nothing can be done. He's not going to live for more than 1 or 2 months. That was really, really horrifying for a doctor. And to cap it all, after 2 or 3 years, he had an intercalated fracture. And the top orthopedic surgeons of Delhi, जिन्हें बहुत कर लिया, अब छोड़ भी देना, जाने दो. When you hear this, you feel what kind of this negative attitude is towards cancer. So finally we got people from Khurana. He was operated, he started walking, he became changed. So after his death, there was a burning desire to set up a comprehensive cancer care and research center in Delhi. And but desire was one thing. I started reading about it, reading was something else. We registered as an NGO, and we got 2 acres of land to register. But land to have. The accreditation, I knew nothing about how to set up a hospital. No knowledge, no experience, no skills, nobody. Just to read. So we started looking for somebody who can help us in the world. And one day, I dared to meet up with Khanna. She was the director, and everybody knew her personality and whatever. And I shared my dream, I told her my plans and this one. She was about to retire in a couple of months. She was thoroughly impressed. She could see it, she could feel the passion in my voice and my eyes. So she assured me that give me some time, I'll get back. Finally, after 2 months, we met. And then there was no looking back. There was no looking back. Her joining us was kind of music to our ears and a godsend blessing. Our godsend. So we started proceeding. Our plans were ready, approved from Tandon Hospital. She reviewed them, she made whatever changes she wanted to make. We did those changes. And she conceptualized her favorite department, Department of Radiology and Imaging. From planning the infrastructure, equipping, getting state-of-the-art equipment and best rate, hiring the staff, training them, standard operating procedure, work instructions, ensuring that quality indicators are sent. That was it. And I knew nothing about it. And I would say on this, I knew nothing about it. After the department was set up, and right in the beginning, she became we made her the head of the hospital management committee. And that time, she ensured that all our services are ethical, compassionate, and at reasonable cost. And nobody should ever say that we are not doing the right thing, and not to say no to anyone. And sadly, at that time, 90% of our patients were like my father. 90% of patients were. Only 10% of people would be cured. And that was really, very distressing. But the hospital has set up to prevent the disease, to detect it at an early stage and provide comprehensive treatment. All we are doing is palliative care and giving peace. Surprised to know, I did not know till then what palliative care was. Although I was doing palliative care for my father, who lived for 7.5 years after diagnosis when I was told nothing can be done. So that was the motivator. If you can do something for one person, why not for others? That was the motivator. Anyway, as a head of the hospital management committee, she ensured safety of everyone, and we follow the ethics, compassionate and good services as per the standards made up. After this, she also ensured, she called all the consultants and discussed with them that the tumor board has to be set up, and everybody has to have a treatment plan as per national and international standards. And that was done. Everybody was scared of her. They had no choice but to follow. The next step was that there was a huge shortage of manpower. So, trained medical oncologists and trained surgical oncologists. So I went to her, what do I do? The ready answer was, apply for being medical oncology and being surgical oncology. There is not a single center where this is available. 2 years, it took me 2 years of follow, and we became India's first cancer hospital to have DMD, medical oncology and surgical oncology. Thanks to her. I wouldn't have known what to do. Her next step was research. So she again called all the faculty members and said, no, we have to do the research. They agreed, happily agreed, and we started the research projects. Before that, she founded a practical committee, she headed the committee, and then you see, everybody was scolded right, left and center. ये भी गलत है, वो भी गलत है, इसको ठीक करके लाओ, आपको ठीक करके लाओ. And finally, everything was set in line, and we are grateful to have Mehrotra has a lot of research projects, has a lot of national and international publication, and the credit goes to her. I was still facing a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. And for every problem, for every challenge, I had no way other than to go to her up there. And she would have ready-made solutions, which are practical, which are doable, and we do them, and we get rid of that challenge that we are suffering. So that's all. We are really indebted to her for doing whatever she's done for the Mishra, and really, I don't think I have ever met somebody like her who could kind of not only motivate me, but motivate everybody else in the hospital. And everybody was on that kind of that, yes, we have to make it the best hospital. And she did it. She did it. So, with these words, I again say, my Khanna, thanks. And I will be having this. I'm very grateful for what all you do, not only for the hospital, but for the people of North India. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the kind words. We now have with us Mr. Bhartia, Chief Executive of Sitaram Bhartia Institute of Science and Research. He has been the director of the institute since 2003 and has an MBA degree from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Can we have a few words from you, sir?
It's a song? Is it? Yeah. Director AIIMS, Professor Srinivas, other degrees on the dais, and members of the audience. It's really a pleasure for me to be here at the launch of man's book. Also, because I think I can take the credit of having played a very small part in making this day happen. As director of Sitaram Bhartia Institute, I have had the privilege of knowing ma'am and working with ma'am for over 25 years. Of course, everybody who used to come in contact with her knows about her legendary clinical skills. But ma'am also served as a medical director for 50 years or so. And during those years, we could see what an outstanding medical leader she was. Here she was a lady in her 80s. She would be taking rounds with an aura that had to be seen to be understood. She would be walking so fast that people less than half her age would be struggling to keep up with her. At the end of the round, she would efficiently take care of all the issues that had arisen, and she elevated our hospital to a different level altogether. Ma'am also led the initiative for the first NABH accreditation at our hospital, and I remember the assessors saying that they had given Sita and Bhartia Hospital the highest marks that they had known of for a hospital undergoing their first assessment. All of that was possible because of the leadership that Ma'am brought. For her, everything had to meet the highest standards. Our NABH accreditation did not mean meeting standards of providing documentation, but it meant improving the way we worked so as to reflect the standards, spirit. But perhaps my most memorable moments with Ma'am did not have anything to do with these 2 areas. They were conversations that we had often over dinner, in which Ma'am would be recalling events from her rich life. I heard her relate how she went to England by ship to start her training in radiology. I heard her relate the days, the dramatic events of the day when she was supposed to be confirmed as Director AIIMS. I heard her relate her struggles of bringing the CT scan to All India Institute of Medical Sciences. It was clear that this was a person who had lived a very rich life. Man was always content and happy and full of life. But I heard her only say one comment. She said, और सब कुछ हो गया, एक चीज मैं नहीं कर पाई. I couldn't write a book. And what she meant was that she didn't write a textbook of radiology. It was at that time that I remember telling Ma'am, why don't you write your memoirs? And I think, Ma'am, I probably goaded you a few times over the next 1 or 2 years. So maybe I can take a little bit of credit that she actually started on the project. I had the privilege of reading the early drafts of many of those chapters. As you read the book, I don't know how many people in the audience have read the book. Whether you've known Ma'am for a long time, like many people in the audience, whether you are here simply because you're curious about a woman who ran AIIMS, I think everyone will benefit from reading the book. It is not just a fantastic story, but it is inspiring. Ma'am will connect with you. I mean, there is a person who connected with the Chapasi to the Chief Minister and beyond. There are words of wisdom over here and inspiration that all of us will benefit from. So, ma'am, thank you very much for writing the book. And my sincere hope is, and Dr. Tandon has already alluded to this, I'm hoping that you will be writing an epilogue to this book, relating your adventures since the publication, beyond your manifesto. All the best.
Thank you, Mr. Bhartia. I would now like to request Dr. N. Mishra to say a few words. He is the former Chief of Neuroradiology at CN Center, who joined as a JR at All India Institute of Medical Sciences and rose to the ranks of Chief of Neuroradiology.
Good afternoon to all of you. Respects to the emeritus professors sitting chair, my teacher, Professor Tandon and Professor Bhargam, with whom I have had the privilege of company and mentorship and help for the last 49 years. I wonder why she chose me to express my sincere gratitude to her in a momentous event like her book release. I just as per design by whosoever there is, to be a student of her. I don't belong here. I was pulled up here 2,000 miles to become a student here, that to get a teacher of her caliber. In fact, I wrote to her some days back, if you permit me, I'll explain how destiny was at work. For you, for me, for everyone. But then that's a long story, I won't do that. I got selected in the vacation of 1976. When she was on vacation, I was selected by Professor Bhartia and Professor Mehrotra Berry, being selectors for the candidates to become students of radiology. And the day I joined, 1st of July 1976, it was morning, 10 o'clock. I just entered the department, and she was coming out of the first room on the right side, which was the conference room. And as her habit, she would walk pretty briskly with her high-heeled shoes so that there will be a clatter on the floor till she entered her office. I just tagged along. Perhaps this intimidated her because she just asked me, "What is it?" Quite terse. I showed her the letter that I'm selected for PGship in your department. She took it and entered her department's door and saw the person who was superintendent of the office, Mr. Chawla. He said, "This boy wants to join our department. Give him the schedule." I can't forget these words. As it so happened, the same evening, that was a Thursday, 4 o'clock, there was a seminar. And in the seminar, as usual, she would stand up first to ask questions to the presenter who used to be a junior resident. And he would be holding a cyclostyled sheet expressing the details of the subject in which it was discussed that particular event. That day it was hysterosalpingography. I can't forget this either. And since I was the first day postgraduate and two others with me, two boys according to her, who entered the department that very morning, we were sitting on the behind everyone else, and we were sitting on top of a films library because the chairs were all filled up by seniors and senior residents. So she promptly asked the question, "What will you do when there is non-spillage in the process of doing hysterosalpingography?" To my surprise at that time, I really was surprised that nobody answered. This gave me an opportunity to answer. So I raised my hand like that, fearing that on the first day entrant to the department, I said, sublingual nitroglycerin. She turned around and just said, "See?" That started my PGship. Then I noticed that in the seminar room there were some placards on top of the viewing panel. The foremost and most important was the eye only sees what the mind knows, which all of you must have realized by this time. But that was the starting point for my learning radiology. And about radiology, there is something which I must tell you. Why was she so accurate? My explanation for that. See, I was a student of physics before joining medicine. And in fact, God granted me the privilege of topping the university in physics. I loved physics. And I wanted to become a medical man only because my father wanted. I had got admission to IIT Kharagpur in 1968 from Sundar Pichai's institution. Anyway, my father was also an engineer. He said, this is a tough job, go for medicine. So I got a medicine because those days, if you are a ranker in the state, you just walked in, no such competition like these days. Then, after coming to medicine, I realized that yes, I applied for surgery because that was my passion. I had done my house job in surgery. But Professor Arthur Prakash was here. I was amongst the six applicants who entered the main viva voce in the department after getting selected for the theory paper. There he asked me a question which nobody could have answered. How will you find the depth of the common bile duct? I realized later on, much later, that Professor Bhargava and Professor Arthur Prakash, they had organized a polytomogram in the department, the only one in this country at that time. I'm talking about 76, where they will do multiple sections, and Arjun Singh, the main tech, would know how to work that machine. That question was asked to an applicant for MS surgery. How could I have answered? I fancied myself as a student good enough for MS surgery selection. I was first waiting, so I applied for radiology, second choice. In radiology, fundamental is physics. So I loved it. And what is physics? Richard Ernst, who is a Nobel laureate in chemistry, gave a talk right here, I think about 15 years ago. And he had the whole hall spellbound for 1.5 hours. Well, he, to me, is a champion in that sense. The way he talked and expressed what is science. Physics is the fundamental, because it explains how does energy interact with matter. And in that, humans have designed a language of physics to explain all the happenings in nature. Then he stepped to say that next level is chemistry, the next level is biology, and the very next level is eternity, almighty, that is invisible. And slowly you get the blessing to know that, like CERN, like boson. Anyway, I will go on this diatribe perhaps for long. I'm not permitted that. I am here to express my sincere gratitude that she pushed me to neuroradiology training. And Professor Tandon, I cannot forget the encouragement he and his colleagues gave me unflinchingly. In fact, I found teachers here 2,000 miles away who were like the teachers I had the privilege of studying under back home, in college, in medical school also. Professor Tandon was the person who announced stated in the combined clinical round, when I demonstrated a spinal vascular malformation by doing angiography, for the first time perhaps in the history of this institution, maybe in this country, that this is the work of one of our senior residents. there could not have been a better compliment and impetus given to me. Thereon, I anyway loved neuroradiology because it was logical. You could explain many things simply because you had a background of physics. Because of her, a new department by its name was established in 1986 when the Neurocenter came about, the independent department of neuroradiology. And this department, with her blessings and help from all quarters, though with reservation many times, is a full-fledged, self-dependent department now performing state-of-art neuroimaging and intervention. The present head is sitting right there, Sailesh. He is doing wonderful things. We are now able to treat inaccessible pathologies in the brain and spinal cord. And what a pleasure it gives when the patient comes back to you, say, a patient who is paraplegic because of a vascular malformation in the spinal cord, on the spinal cord, walks to my office after 6 months and opens the door slightly. I say, where are your assistant? No, I have come on my own with a stick. I said, you come here and sit in this chair, I'll stand. Because this is the reward the Almighty has granted. There are umpteen number of such examples. And then this science is progressing by leaps and bounds because of technology. You now have access to third-level branches of cranial arteries to remove obstructions of all kinds. And now you are using other methods of imaging to treat tremors, for example. Focus ultrasound for the brain. It has just started this year in Hyderabad, and we hope that it will come here. It will come here. It has to come here because there is no alternative. Same thing happened with the gamma knife in 1997. I was part of that team. When we, that's a long story about that, but then when we went to Stockholm Karolinska to get the initial training on the gamma knife surgery, we met a Japanese team. They had also purchased a gamma knife. And when we interacted, they were shocked that how could we manage to get this equipment for such a low price? And I tell you, when we negotiated with the Swedes, they would go red. And with the funds allocated from the ministry, we also added the first picture archiving and communication system in this institute back in 97 with fiber optic connection between the MR, CT, and the gamma knife workstation, which facilitated quick decision making at the workstation for gamma knife. Then on, we have moved quite a few levels up to establish DM in neuroradiology. I remember this proposal for starting DM was put up to the academic committee in 1990 here, and Professor H.D. Tandon, who was one of the members, he said, what will these DMs do? So the program was stalled for about 10 years. It only could start in 2002. But now, looking back, I think it was a good decision. Professor Banerjee is sitting there. He kept encouraging us. Now you must go for it. You must go for it. I was thinking at the head of neuroradiology at that time that it will be quite a task added to the difficulties of managing clinical care. No, you must keep going for it, and it happened. And now DM students have spread right through this country and doing wonderful, wonderful things. Besides that, it has attracted so much attention that neurosurgeons and neurologists also want to do it. Sometimes ophthalmologists want to do it. I have my own opinion about it, because unless you know physics, unless you know embryology, unless you revisit anatomy, it's very difficult. You cannot hold the patient to some procedure of which you do not know in and out. So ultimately, I would say that Professor Bhargav not only has been an icon, a tremendous teacher, never a didactic teaching, but interactive teaching, which is, I think, the way to go in post-graduation and higher. It's only the meeting of minds that creates new knowledge. In Sanskrit, it is said, tark bitark se gyan prapti hoti hai. That's true. God has given the brain, which is tremendous in its ability to explore the universe. In fact, it is so said that in your late years, which, should I stop now? Yeah, I guess it is time. I should not hold her for such a long time. I only want to say that the youngsters in this campus who have not joined in this meeting, what they are missing. They would have got a real message how to achieve the excellence she has. And I wish her a healthy life here on. She had enough energy physically and mentally so that her words of wisdom can energize a generation. She therefore has been awarded the Millennium Award of the Indian Radiological Imaging Association. She is a Millennium Lady. No doubt about that. It's only it's only because the West doesn't look at India favorably. She was only awarded a RSNA, Radiological Society of North America, honorary membership as late as in 2018, and that too because Dr. Vijay M. Rao, who is a AIIMS alumnus, visited AIIMS and saw her. The West is like that, all of you know. But I think it is time we rise above this. And she will always remain an icon in that direction. In fact, the policymakers would have done very well to have her within their ranks to plan clinical care medicine. Similar expertise also exists in this country. Say, for example, primary health care. We don't talk about this SPM people, community medicine people. And how can we plan primary health care? And tertiary health care cannot be all and end all of every disease. By the way, I'd like to share, recently only I read in the papers that AI will eliminate all disease. Now how? The explanation given is, to design a drug molecule, it will take no time. To detect a genetic ailment or disease which is communicable would be so much easier with AI. So it's going to change the face of medicine. And I certainly am very happy to hear that, because our successive generation will surely benefit by it by leaps and bounds. I thank you all for giving a patient hearing. And again, my regards to Professor Bhargav and Professor Tandon. They truly are emeritus, no doubting that. I wish they had secretaries who would take their dictations. They would be words of wisdom like Gita, no less, because I've been a student, I know it. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. We'll shortly have the official ceremony for unveiling of the book. But before that, can we have a few words from Dr. A. Khurana? He is owner of an ultrasound lab in Defense Colony. He had joined All India Institute of Medical Sciences as a junior resident and then excelled in his field of ultrasonography.
Many happy returns of the day, ma'am, and it's a privilege that this is happening here. You've been threatening to not be there for your next birthday for a few years, but I know that we will celebrate your 100th together. And with your blessings, I will still be around. It's traditional to address each person who are the dignitaries on the dais, everybody in the audience, but I will not know where to begin, where to end, because you taught me that. When I was sitting on the dais today, I realized I had a lot of memories of this hall from the day it was inaugurated. And I just realized that there are 9 people in the hall whom I do not know. And you taught me that those 9 are the important people. It's not just starting in the corner for the lady who inspired me to do fetal medicine, or Dr. Rajani who said that, she actually seduced the Swedish International Development Agency to give us cardiac catheterization, and all we had to do was to put a board on the outside. That was not the only episode. She introduced me to a lot of things. Dr. P.S.N. Menon, who is sitting in the front row, we wrote our first scientific paper together on one of the rare dwarfisms, and you pushed me into writing that paper when I was still a junior resident. So I can never thank you enough for all of that. And I had 2 versions of the talk today, the ChatGPT version and the handwritten, soulful version, and I didn't know which one I would use. But let me start with saying that I've known you 50 years. This August will be 50 years. And the first time I saw you, there was that hint of Indira Gandhi, and scurried off in a minute and a half. And then I said, no, this is not the same person, because you had a gentleness to yourself, and that remains there today. And behind all the pushing and the running, it is there. It is not just somebody who ran AIIMS, but someone who made AIIMS run after her, because she was always 2 steps ahead. And in doing so, every one of us in the room made sure that we remained ahead. And I'm really grateful to you for having taught us that. Then also there was this wonderful remark on the zest for living, and I have that in me today because you pushed it and pushed it and pushed it for the 10 years that I was here at AIIMS. And thank you very much for doing that. There was also several firsts. When I was in the Department of Radiology, we got our very first CT scan. It was called a CAT scan in those days, the 1010. We got our first in the country. And there was our first sector transducer in ultrasound. We used to use big bricks before that. And that, she made sure that because the funds were not enough, would come in the cancer center. She was always making sure where the funds came from. All we had to do was to mention what we needed. When we thought ultrasound should go further, she invited a professor from Denmark and said, you take him and show him around, then make sure you arrange 3 months with him wherever he is. And so she pushed me off to go to Copenhagen. And I said, but ma'am, I don't have leave. She says, it's an elective posting. In those days, in a government organization, that was unheard of. But you believed in me, ma'am. And I said, look, I'm not sure I can stay too long with the department. I have fiscal restraints. And you said, never mind, get it going. And I've never had to look back ever since. Thank you so much for all those inspirations. And during that time, I remember you replaced, in those days, what is now called fancy and digital, but we had digital radiography, which came along in 1983. We had digital angiography, which came along in 1983. And then, whenever a section anywhere near the department used to go empty, she says, go, occupy that space. I think we need it for the radiology department. And I thought that was such a brilliant thing to do. because that place would lie locked without it being ventilated for those many years, but we learned the art of making sure that we make use of every single resource that we have. Some of these things don't come out in the book. What also doesn't come out in the book is that she was building this institution far before she became director. She was the boss of the hospital management board, and then she had Dr. Safaya running after her, and he made sure that nobody could spit in the passages, and he made sure that the lifts would stop on alternate floors, because why shouldn't people climb up one floor? Now, these simple decisions from someone who was then boss of the hospital management board laid what happened in AIIMS for the years that you did become director. And that was fantastic. I remember I was running after you when we were running when Madam Indira Gandhi was shot, and you said, Aja. And that was it. And I knew that I had to tail you for the rest of the day. And that was a privilege indeed. There's so many of these stories, but I know you've heard a lot of stories today. But the one story that sticks out is that because of all this, she not only brought technology to the poorest Indian, who richly deserved it even then, but has made sure that several generations after that have continued to follow that and are taking technology to the poorest Indian, because not only just the people she trained for hospital management, but also every one of me, my colleagues, my junior colleagues, my senior colleagues, got pushed into having that spirit of, even if we are in private practice, that we have to do something for the community. Thank you very much, ma'am, for these fine values. I know I will continue to learn from you forever, but thank you indeed, and of course for the privilege for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And now we are eager to listen to the lady of the hour, whose book we are here to celebrate, Dr. Sneha Bhargava. Ma'am.
Good evening to all of you. As I sit here on this podium at the age of 95, memories flood back 65 years of memories, too deep to hide and too joyous not to share. I begin by expressing my profound thanks to Professor M. Srinivas, our director. 35 years have passed since I left AIIMS and gave up the directorship, yet you welcomed me back so graciously. Thank you, Professor Srinivas, for giving me this chance. I know, Professor Srinivas, your presence here, despite your many responsibilities, speaks volumes about your character. I'd also like to thank all past and present directors who have kept AIIMS flag high and both nationally and internationally. To our esteemed chief guest, Professor P.N. Tandon, or as I have known him for 6 decades, dear Prakash, I can hardly find words. Our journey began at Irving Hospital when you were the chief of casualty medical officer and I was a fresh house physician. You pursued neurosurgery with passion, and I pursued radiology with passion in this institute, day after day, year after year. You established a Neurosciences Center and made a mark internationally. This book, you inspired me to write, and I raise my glass to you. Though you may never dream, but as someone has swift, your life has been as strong as rum, as fine as wine, as cool as beer, as classic as whiskey, and sophisticated as vodka. I deeply miss Professor Gopinath, our companion in the most early struggles that we had back then. Seeking funds was like begging under the British, and still felt the same after independence. But Professor Gopinath, with his skillful navigation of North Block, helped us secure funds for our country's first CT scanner and for whole of Southeast Asia. To Mr. Mehrotra, head of Juggernaut Publishers, thank you for guiding me into the publishing of my memories, keeping me safe with your due diligence, and for discovering that I am India's oldest woman writer at 95. A record, though outdone by Mr. Kushan Singh at 97-98, but it was a male member of the panel. To Dr. Subharsha Khanna, founder of Dharamshila Cancer Hospital and Research Center, my heartfelt thanks for entrusting me to help you build North India's first exclusive cancer center. Together, crossing the Yamuna by a boat bridge to our club in Vasundhara Enclave was both thrilling and unforgettable. Our collaboration, merging my AIIMS experience with your vision and dream, brought us to inaugurate with dignitaries like the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Mr. Dave, Chief Minister Mrs. Sheila Dixit, and President APJ Abdul Kalam. To Mr. Abhishek Bhartia, thank you for allowing me to lead radiology at Sitaram Bhartia Institute first with minimal equipment, later as medical director. It was a joy to empower women's staff, uphold accountability, gain the NABH recognition, and serve the public together as a non-profit organization. My special thanks goes to Senior Mr. O.P. Bhartia and Mrs. Rajshri Bhartia, who initiated the Sitaram Bhartia Institute for Science and Technology. To my students, Dr. Nalin Mishra and Mr. Khurana, and many others, you have made me proud. Though I was sometimes called a terror, we shared laughter, chairs, picnics, conferences, some of the first of their kind in India, and a love for medicine. Finally, thank you to all of you, members of the audience, for your presence and for your patience. Your support means the world to me. Now, it's my pleasure to invite you for IT India Joining Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now have the official unveiling of the book. For that, may I request all the dignitaries at the dais to please hold the book up while the photographer can please click a picture.
That's fine, sir. You can take it.
I can stand. Thank you, everyone. So with this, we have the official closing of the unveiling ceremony. Profound, I would like to, everyone may please be seated. I would like to express profound gratitude to Dr. Sneh Bhargav for choosing All India Institute of Medical Sciences for official unveiling of her book. Heartfelt gratitude for the gracious presence of Honorable Director Professor M. Srinivas, Professor P. N. Tandon, Dr. Suvarsha Khanna, Mr. Abhishek Bhartia, Dr. N. Mishra, and Dr. A. Khurana, Professor K. K. Verma, Professor Nikhil Tandon, and Mr. Mehrotra. Thank you to all the faculty, staff, and all attendees who are here today in the auditorium, whose participation and warmth made this celebration of knowledge and ideas deeply fulfilling. Also, thank you is also due to media and protocol cell, the cafeteria staff and auditorium staff, and many other stakeholders for the impeccable organization of this wonderful event. All the attendees may now proceed for the high tea, which is available in the first floor of the auditorium. And in case you are not able to climb up, then you can have in the ground floor outside the auditorium also, for those who are unable to proceed to the first floor. Thank you very much.